Hello, everybody. I have Harel with me today, and we are going to be talking about RPA, Cryon's RPA solution specifically, and some of the future of the industry while we're together. But before I dive into the questions that I have for you, would you mind giving everybody an introduction?
Sure. Thank you, Evan. Nice to be on this video recording. And my name is Ariel. I'm the CEO of Cryon. Cryon is an RPA company, robotic process automation. I've been in the technology market for a long time, part of companies like AVG, Conduit, Microsoft, and many others.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining me today. And so you mentioned the idea of RPA or robotic process automation. And I like to start a lot of these conversations kind of at the very beginning to make sure that everybody knows the details of what we're talking about. So can you help share a little bit more about what RPA is for those that are joining us?
Absolutely. So RPA, robotic process automation, in a way you can think about that as a virtual workspace environment, a virtual workforce environment. You can have virtual employees doing anything like human activities. Usually in our day-to-day job, there are many activities that need to be done either manually or through specific application. The main strength or value of RPA is the ability to execute those processes behind the scene. So either if it's acting like human being, clicking on a button, write things or read things from the screen, RPA can do that. But RPA can do many other things behind the scene using API, UI integrations. I like to think about RPA usually as a digital twin. Think of that you will have a digital twin that can do anything in your day-to-day job that you don't like to do. So if I'm a sales representative and after a good meeting, I close a deal for $1 million with the largest, company in my market, and now I need to find all this information, all the relevant information within my CRM system. I can do that, but it's a little bit boring, and sometimes, it's, waste of my time. I prefer to go to another customer or prospect. So think of that the robot can do that for you. You can communicate with the robot. It can be via chat, it can be via email, and the robot will do that for you. So this is in a way your digital twin that can reduce any noise from your day-to-day job and create much more value for the companies. And for you as an employee, can give you a lot of, much more impact on the business, without doing anything that you don't like to do.
Great. That idea of the digital twin and automating the mundane so you can focus on the parts of your job that you enjoy. I don't know who would not want that. As we talk about this robotic process automation space, it's grown a lot over the last couple of years, and there are a lot of solutions for people to choose from. Can you share a little bit about what sets Cryon apart from some of those other solution options?
Absolutely. So yes, RPA is, we had an amazing growth over the last, demand over the last few years. And I think that Cryon, was differentiate Cryon versus the rest of the RPA vendors is not just the solutions that we have. So from the core RPA, from the core automation side, usually RPAs, has attended automation, which is a client that is running on your machine and can help you, can guide you through your day-to-day job or do things for you on your machine. That's the attended automation. And then there is the unattended, which is a virtual machine, either in the cloud or on premise. And this virtual machine can literally execute any logical process within the organization. So beside of these automation capabilities, there is a new area that Cryon was the first company in the market or the most innovative company that managed to deliver to the market. We call that process discovery. So beside of the ability to execute and mimic human activities or help the companies to accelerate their growth or remove any mundane processes from the day-to-day job, we have the ability today to also identify and map the automation behind the scene seamlessly for the user activity. So if I'm an employee and I've got an email with a PDF. I open this PDF, extract some information from this PDF to my CRM system, and then complete the process within the CRM, maybe even export the data to an Excel file and send it to my VP. We can identify that this is a process for automation, that you don't need to do this process, and we can transform this process directly to our automation. So from Crayon point of view, I think the main differentiator that we have in the market, beside of that we have the best RPA products in the market, is that we can take what we call full cycle automation from A to Z, from the identification, mapping, and then automating the processes with a very, very simple way, so we can reduce the TCO, the total cost of ownership, the effort to identify and map, by up to 80%. And this is insane, because eventually, beside of the cost reduction that we reduce, and today, 70% of the RPA project cost is preliminary to the RPA implementation, and we can reduce that by 80%. So, beside of that, we solve with this full cycle automation capability, we solve the challenge, or the main challenge in the enterprise market today in regards to the automation side, which is the scalability. So how can an enterprise can be Verizon, HSBC, or any company in the market, how can they scale the automation from dozens of automation scenarios to thousands? In order to do that, they can't do that manually. They can bring many advisories to sit with their employees and try to figure out what can be done or how can they automate these processes. They need to use some technology solution to do that seamlessly behind the scene and help them to scale up their organization.
That idea of the process behind automation is so key. And the more that you read about this industry and you look at advice from experts, that idea of really focusing in on the process and in this scenario, being able to automate that process discovery is really the key to unlocking that scalability and success with your RPA implementations. So that's a really great point to call out. One of the things that I recently have started reading is the book Intelligent Automation, and I saw that you, along with a lot of other experts in this industry, provided testimonials on the front end of that book about why this idea is such a big deal. And for those that don't know, intelligent automation is really looking at taking tools like RPA and adding things like artificial intelligence to them to kind of take it to the next level. Can you share with us a little bit about, obviously process discovery gets into that, but how Crayon solutions are evolving to be a part of that rise of intelligent automation?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. I think that in a way, AI in general, the way that AI interface with RPA, there are two dimensions to that. So the first side, so as a technology, I think that the AI is some kind of enabler for the RPA to become much smarter than we ever been. So, we spoke about discovery capabilities. So, we have a deep learning technology to gather a lot of information and then crunch this data, and eventually being able to, based on thousands of people activities, identify the top 100 processes for automation. Without AI, we will never be able to do something like that. It might take us years to identify these processes. So that's one aspect. The second aspect, and Crayon has 5 patents granted for computer vision and AI. So we can use that on the computer vision side, being able to identify specific area within your screen and then act based on that. So that's one dimension, the usage of AI as part of the RPA to become much more intelligent, to become much more efficient for these organizations to use the RPA. That's very important. But besides of that, there is another part of RPA and AI interface, which is RPA will become the enabler for AI usage for business users. So the RPA, the main value of RPA is that RPA is being used by not IT expert developers. It's something that can be used by anyone. It can be used by HR manager. It can be used by finance employee, and this business user can create any scenario, any automation scenario based on the day-to-day job. Now think of that the AI capabilities become much smarter and much more complicated. And the way that a citizen developer, that's the terminology for the business user, that the citizen developer will be able to access or to use the AI capabilities, it's something that will bridge the gap between these capabilities and his knowledge. And RPA is a perfect tool to use in order to leverage the AI capabilities. So for example, we have at Crayon, we have embedded within our platform the ability to access, for example, Microsoft AI capabilities or AI tools. So we can, I'm as a non-savvy technology guy, I can use the specific AI functionality from Microsoft side just with drag and drop, capabilities that we have within Crayon Studio. So again, from the AI point of view, one step or one side of that is the ability to use these AI capabilities within the RPA platform in order to make the RPA much better, much more intelligent. Much better on the identification, mapping, and then the automation and optimization side. That's very important, and that's the enabler within our platform to provide better impact for our customers. The second side is that we will enable the AI interfaces for the business users to become much more valuable for the organization.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today and talking through this. Anybody that's interested in learning more about Crayon, feel free to go over and check out Harel's LinkedIn profile, Crayon's website, or also feel free to reach out to anyone at Navient and we can help connect you with the information that you're looking for. But thank you again for joining me. It was a pleasure to have you, and have a wonderful day, everyone.